You're listening to the Good Question Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Our goal is to make each of our guests exclaim, that's a good question. I don't know the answer. Because when that happens, it means you, the listener, may be inspired to learn more beyond the interview and to ask great questions yourself that lead to new insights. In this podcast, we cover historical and current anthropology, comparative religion, and history. Welcome, and let's get started.
Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with the Good Question Podcast. My guest today is Shannon Race, the co-founder of Biome. The website is bio.me. It's a product, it's a powder that you mix in with drinks. I just got some samples in the mail recently that I'm looking forward to trying to help your microbiome. So we're going to talk about that and the history of the product and what the company's about. So welcome, Shannon.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here. It's been quite a journey building this brand and really excited to share it with others.
Oh, great. How did you first become aware of the microbiome itself? Like, what's your history?
So I have had a variety of different gastrointestinal issues since I can honestly remember, really dating back to middle school, really. And at that time, there wasn't a lot of awareness around the microbiome and causes of things that, tend to trigger symptoms of IBS, etc. So my experience really was a lot of trying to navigate that situation with very limited knowledge and looking at, what foods seem to trigger me, but really having kind of no solution to the issue. So that was really kind of the jumping off point of my interest in the microbiome. Fast forward to, my early 20s, it got progressively worse. I started to realize that lactose was a major trigger for me and started to eliminate that, but didn't eliminate it entirely because I, again, was just not fully aware of what, the intricacies of what the microbiome is and does and how, these symptoms can manifest in a variety of ways. And so I actually started working very early stage at Vital Protein in 2016. And I grew up in the Midwest for context. So when you think about health and wellness, it's not at the forefront of everyone's mind in the Midwest. So growing up, that just wasn't something I was super involved in. Well, working at Vital Proteins was really kind of my inroad to that world of more naturopathic options, finding, wellness through use of whole foods and, things like bone broth and like how you can really heal your gut with food as opposed to medicine. And I was just opened up to this really incredible world. And I did a Whole30 in 2016. And if you're familiar with the Whole30 diet, it's an elimination diet in a sense, really taking out more inflammatory foods from your diet to really start to understand kind of what might be triggers for you. And in that 30-day process, I'd never felt better in my life. And, it really was a very eye-opening experience for me, to really understand just in how bad my gut was, how bad my microbiome health was, but B, to really understand that my only path forward in really healing my gut was going to be to feed my gut nutritious foods and various supplements that would support the health of it long term and stop feeding it those inflammatory foods that were really causing it the most damage. So that was really kind of my inroad to this world. And I've been ever since on kind of a personal journey to figuring out how to heal my gut from the inside out.
So I don't know if you're able to say, but what issues were you having and what were some of the first things that you tried that worked or didn't work?
Yeah, mine was very much, it was really diarrhea. It's a lot of, if I ate something that triggered an IBS reaction, it would be days before I was kind of on the other side of it. And so it was very disruptive to my life. Obviously, eliminating lactose entirely from my diet was a huge help, but I was very new in the supplement world and what was really helping support my gut health. And it's evolved, and it continues to evolve as I delve deeper into it. But the first thing that I really brought into my repertoire was probiotics and really understanding just the nature of good bacteria in the gut and maintaining a diverse microbiome environment and bringing all different types of probiotic strain into my microbiome to help support a more diverse little world in there. So that was kind of my number one tool, along with collagen-based foods. So bone broth, I was finding ways to naturally reincorporate collagen sources like skins of animals, things that we typically weed out through modern food processing, and just trying to find some of those, really gut like nurturing, healing food. Those were some of my early tools. It's branched into, magnesium, it's branched into L-glutamine, it's branched into really now fiber, not understanding the role that fiber plays in your overall diet for so long, for so many years of my life, because I had this very vivid memory of, all of the various diets, my mom would be on, and, fiber being like the tool that was used when there was a symptom like constipation. And I always thought, oh, well, I don't need fiber. I'm not constipated. And that was kind of my frame of reference for that nutrient. And, what we know now is that nutrient is an essential part to the function of your gut, the health of your gut, and just generally your wellness.
Okay. So you tried different products. How did you come to Biome? How did you figure out formulation, and how did you come to this product?
Yeah. So Biome was more of that kind of response to the fiber deficiency that is very rampant in the US. And I am one of two co-founders. My co-founder, Chloe Maloff, an ulcerative colitis, I guess you would call it survivor. It's kind of always there, but she's in remission. She's had that disease for 17 years. I have suffered from, not an IBD related illness, but I have had IBS. So we've kind of been on different ends of the spectrum in terms of, gut issues that we've faced throughout the vast majority of our lives. And she and I were talking about, different things that we've used to help heal our guts. And she really was so adamant on psyllium husk being one of those things that just really transformed her colon health. And in our conversations, I think we both just realized fiber has not been marketed correctly to the vast majority of America. Most people don't even understand really what its intended purpose is. I would venture to guess most people still associate it with some sort of symptom relief or as a reactive tool to a symptom. And we wanted to create a brand that spoke to a modern consumer who understood that, fiber and the prebiotic benefits that come with fiber are essential tools to your gut health, especially if you're already using probiotics. The fact that most people don't understand that the prebiotics are what probiotics feed on. And that's how we create, short chain fatty acids that are so integral to colon health. And so, that was really kind of the conversation that ensued that led us to Biome and understanding that there was a real opportunity to re-envision what the space was and help educate consumers on just how important fiber is and how deficient we are as a population, and find easy, versatile ways for them to bring that back into their diet.
Okay. So again, what is the goal of Biome? You take it in the morning? Do you take it with every meal? And what is its, is the action happening while you're consuming a meal? And it's helping you digest it better and extract more nutrients? Or, how does the product work?
Yeah. So we have 3 different products on the market right now. 2 of them are powders. The one that has been deemed our hero SKU is a 2-ingredient fiber blend called Daily Probiotic Fiber. And that is, it can be taken with food, it can be taken in a beverage, but that is really to help build this habitual kind of nature of adding fiber back into your diet and really supporting microbiome health. So the resistant potato starch and the partially hydrolyzed guar, which are the 2 ingredients that make up this particular product, act as essentially vehicles to help kind of carry those good bacteria through the intestines and into your colon, where they, secrete short chain fatty acids that really support the colon health. So, we're looking at this line as a more habitual, proactive approach to wellness and gut health specifically. The other fiber powder is kind of our direct response to a Metamucil. It's a much cleaner version that doesn't have, aspartame and yellow dyes and things like that in it that are actually very harmful for your microbiome. Instead, is a cleaner option for people who want that more kind of detox-like constipation relief. And then we also have a capsule that's a pre-pro and postbiotic that is another kind of daily tool for helping to diversify the bacteria in your gut health and support a very healthy microbiome.
Well, okay. I mean, which one should people take, and how and when? Like, how do they know what to do to help themselves?
Yeah, so the Daily Probiotic Fiber is the one that if anyone is new to supplementing with fiber or, incorporating a fiber product into their repertoire, that's the one we always tell people to start with. It's really versatile, it's soluble and unflavored. And so it's very easy to add to, various beverages, coffee, tea, smoothies, yogurt, oatmeal. And that's one you would take every day. So, fiber deficiency is a daily deficiency. It's not just, something that happens here and there. It is something that, through the way that we consume foods, and by no means am I trying to ever deter people from eating whole fruits, vegetables, legumes, seeds, things like that, where you naturally get fiber. This is definitely an addition to a fiber-rich diet. This is just an easier tool for people who are falling short daily. I know personally through my journey, that was something that I really struggled with. I eat a very healthy diet, but I still was not meeting the 20 to 30 grams of fiber recommended by the American Heart Association to get into your diet on a daily basis. So this is to help fill that void. And it's just a very easy, seamless product that I would recommend anyone who's new to fiber supplementation to start with, to help really strengthen their gut health.
Oh, some people, when I experience, can take fiber, some can't. My wife takes it seems to help her really well. But when I take it, it just gums me up. I'm able to go normally. But how do you adjust the fiber level to make sure that it's helping you? Or how do you know that you even need fiber, let's say?
Well, I would first start by assessing your diet and understanding how much fiber you are getting in your diet. People take upwards of, some people who eat a lot of fiber, consume fiber frequently, are taking upwards of 100 grams of fiber a day through their diet and other sources. So I would first ask the question to you, what are the fiber sources that you're consuming that are causing that response? Because not all fiber is created equal, right? There are some fibers that are soluble, there are some that are insoluble, there are some that are viscous that gel, and there are some that are not viscous. Even from inulin, which is a very short chain fiber that ferments very quickly. And most people are probably familiar with that particular fiber source because it's found a lot in bars, it's found in beverage products. That can cause a lot of GI distress because of just the nature of the chain of the fiber, how quickly it ferments in your gut. But something like a psyllium husk, for instance, is a much longer chain. So it takes a lot longer to digest. So it's fermenting longer and doesn't tend to have those kind of GI gas bloating discomforts that other shorter chain fibers often have. So, it's one of those things where there's so many questions to be asked to understand, what fiber is right for you, what effect you've had from them, what sources you're taking.
It was probably Metamucil or something like that I tried years ago, but, I don't try not a very high-end one.
Yeah, I'd also question too, Metamucil's been around for 90 years and they really haven't changed their formulation to meet the needs of the modern consumer who really does feel like clean ingredients are kind of table stakes these days. There's maltodextrin in it. There's other ingredients that aren't really necessary. So there's also the question around, is it the fiber source or some of the other ingredients causing you those issues too? Okay.
So, the formulation you have of the fiber in your products is such that you get very few or any complaints about the constipation aspect of it?
We tend to get the other end of that.
Oh, okay.
People are like, oh, I'm really regular now. I didn't realize I was not regular before until I started taking more fiber. But, there's other factors. The microbiome is such a complex environment and, experts, still are discovering new things about it on a daily basis. And so there's so many factors that can lead to reaction that you might be having to a specific fiber source. Something that's been really common, honestly, by way of COVID has been, and people who've had COVID, there's been this really interesting correlation is SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And SIBO you need a lot of good bacteria, a lot of probiotics to help essentially get rid of that bad bacteria that's overgrown in your small intestine. Taking fiber can actually exacerbate those symptoms. So there's a lot of nuance to it. So if psyllium husk, which is in Metamucil, wasn't a good fiber source for you, or you had a reaction to it that wasn't great, the daily prebiotic fiber is different sources of fiber that might be a better source for you to consider. So a lot of nuance.
Okay. So what you mix the powders in with what, about 8 ounces of water, and drink it before eating, after eating? When's the best time to take it? Morning, night?
So depending on the fiber that you're taking, so if you're taking the daily prebiotic fiber, which is the unflavored, fully soluble product that we offer, that can really be taken any time of day. You can put it in 8 ounces of water. You can add it to your smoothie. There's a lot of versatility in that one. We've gotten very creative with various recipes on our social media channels to help people understand, as simple as adding it to, chia seed pudding you're prepping for the week, And so that one's very versatile in use. That's why, again, we really kind of recommend that people start there if they're not familiar with a fiber supplement. The second one, the psyllium husk, that one's actually pretty interesting because the way that it digests, and because it digests very slowly, it is great to take as a satiety tool. So you could take this, and I would recommend taking this, maybe 30 minutes before your meal if you would like to use that as, a weight management type tool. But again, it doesn't need to necessarily be taken before a meal or after a meal per se. It can be taken at any time of day. I wouldn't take it right before bed, but there is a lot of versatility in it. I think my intention or my mission with this brand is really to get people to add fiber back into their diet in a more habitual manner. So if that means that it works best for you to do it in your morning routine, because that's when you're taking, other supplements, or you're doing other things for your health and wellness, then I would do it then. It's really about how do we find seamless integrations into people's existing lifestyles so that these things doesn't become a hurdle in their life, or it doesn't become, forgotten.
Okay. So is this something that people just want to take continuously forever? Should they take breaks, maybe once a week, don't take it for a day? Or what's the protocol that you've seen works best?
I mean, I take this every single day. I think if you feel you're not truly getting enough fiber in your diet, that taking this every day is a great solution for you. The more that you feed the good bacteria in your gut, the better they function. So skipping a day and is leaving you kind of prone to, bad bacteria, finding a means of feeding and reproducing, and not, really creating that diverse, healthy bacterial environment in your gut. So I recommend you take it every day. I mean, I think that it's really important. It's like getting enough protein in your diet. It's like getting enough, the good carbohydrates in your diet. It really is a macronutrient and just so vital to wellness. So to me, it is definitely a habitual. That's how I say it. Yeah.
Okay. And then best time to take it, is it morning or night, or right before you eat or after you eat?
Again, I think that this is really about what's best for the consumer. I like to create products that people can add into an existing routine, because again, I want people to be able to capture that habitual use. So there is no time of day that is specific to these products where it needs to be taken at the specific time or before a meal or what have you. Again, with the psyllium husk, if you wanted to use that as a tool to, help with satiety ahead of eating a meal, so that, you're using this kind of as a weight management tool or blood sugar control, it can be utilized in that way for sure, but there's no right or wrong way to do this.
Yeah, the reason I ask is that from what I've read and spoken to people about, the bacteria don't take up residence in your gut. The gut's pretty, it's hard to change, the mix of what's in there, but they act in transit. So I figured maybe a good protocol is you have a third of what you'd normally have with each meal. It'll be harder to do and more of a pain, but maybe that's ideal. But at least having it with a meal, maybe your biggest meal of the day, maybe the best thing to do. I don't know. Just suggestions.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, if we look at the daily prebiotic fiber products, so the resistant potato starch that's in that particular product is kind of what you're saying, acting in transit. It is a vehicle. So the good bacteria kind of hop into that car, if you will, and feed on that car while they're making their way through your intestines and into your colon, where having that positive benefit. So that product is really geared toward creating a healthier, more nourished microbiome and really helping feed those good bacteria and support the balance of that environment. Whereas the psyllium husk product is really, that to me is more of, it helps push out and it helps you eliminate. So it helps you the bathroom more regularly, because, on the other side of that, it's like a detoxing your GI tract in a way. You don't want waste to be sitting in your GI tract. That's not good for, especially if, and I personally believe that we all kind of have we're all sitting on a spectrum of leaky gut. There is permeability likely in a lot of our GI tracts. And the longer that waste sits there, the more, excretes into the rest of your body and causes other issues. So that is more of a tool. The psyllium husk product is more of a tool to really help you get out and eliminate the waste, and the nature of it gelling and that insoluble fiber that kind of sits in that gel-like mass. It almost acts as like a bristle brush that moves through your GI tract and really helps kind of get into those crevices and pull out that, the waste or whatever is kind of trapped in the ridges and the lining of your GI tract. So to me, that product is really a tool to help rid your GI tract of the things that your body is trying to eliminate, but if you're constipated, it can't. Whereas the daily prebiotic fiber is really, it has the specific fiber sources that act as the vehicle for that those good probiotics, the good bacteria in your gut to really move through your intestines and get into your colon and really create that healthy environment.
What are your thoughts on enemas? Do you think that, what if someone has one and then they start the protocol like a few days later? Would it work better? Or have you guys did anything again in relation to that?
You said an enema?
Yeah, what if you went and you got like, those places where they cleaned out your colon, it's got like a tank of water and it's got like a little nozzle and it goes up, your butt and the water like goes in and out, it goes in and you expel it, goes in, you expel it. Like those, the places where they do enemas, it's like more of a professional place, but they'll do it, clean you out supposedly and you're starting fresh or fresher.
I have mixed feelings about that stuff. I'm not an expert, so I won't speak from a place of as an expert, but I will speak to kind of what I know, and especially about the health of the microbiome. I think that it is a very fragile environment. And the more that you cleanse that, there's no way to cleanse that environment and select what you're cleansing, right? To me, you're setting yourself up for potentially disrupting the health of that environment and potentially pulling out good bacteria that should be living in there. And I think when you're saying enemas, you're saying colonics as well. I am assuming you're speaking to that too. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. I think that if there's ways to naturally, help move out waste from your GI tract that doesn't involve flushing out the colon and potentially disrupting the microbiome, that would be always my preference. But again, I'm not an expert on those things. And so I can only speak to what I believe is probably not the best thing.
What about intermittent fasting? Would that be a good way to start a protocol like this, or does it not really matter? Or a fast, let's say a 24-hour fast, let's say you do a 24-hour fast and then you start the program, or you start the Biome, or does it not matter? You just start taking it, no special preparation needed, you're off to the races.
No special preparation needed. I don't know what the benefits of fasting prior to adding fiber into your diet really would be. Personally, I intermittent fast. That's just something that I've been doing for close to a year now. It's been a very helpful tool for me.
Some people have been doing it, but only intermittently.
Yeah, but there are requirements to kind of setting yourself up to start adding fiber. And I think the only thing I really tell people is if they're not already, if they're not sure if they're getting enough fiber in their diet or getting a lot of fiber in their diet currently, and they want to start adding more fiber to their diet, they need to start slow. You don't want to, there's that brilliant doctor that's on our advisory board, and she just has this amazing anecdote that I love to use now, which is you don't pick up your running shoes and run a marathon the first day you go outside to run. You start slow and build up to those miles. So it's the same thing with introducing, anything into your digestive system or into your supplement routine. You want to start slow and kind of build up your digestive system's ability to kind of, process and utilize those nutrients. So don't, start adding 30 grams of fiber into your diet day one. You want to slowly build to that place.
Yeah, I noticed if I try a new probiotic and I take too much, you know what happens later in the bathroom. You run there.
Yes. Yep. I'm all too familiar. It took a lot of trial and error on my part to try to figure out how mitigate that. But yeah, it's, I just think the gut is really fascinating. And it requires a lot of being in tune with yourself. So much of my experience has been trial and error, truly, and really understanding I feel better. This specifically feels better. And mentally noting, if I, tried a new probiotic and, it had a much higher, billions of CFUs of strains in it than I typically take, and it makes me, not feel well or, have a bathroom situation that, I dial it back. And, just really, it's such a kind of trial and error scenario, really.
Okay. So all right. So where could Biome be bought? Amazon or through your website? Like, what's the best place to go to get it?
Yeah. So we're currently on Amazon. That's where a lot of people do their shopping these days. So we definitely want to be able to reach those consumers. But we do sell on our website as well, bio.me. And those are our two sales channels at the moment. We hope to, eventually grace the doors of different retail locations. But, we're about 8 months old. So we're pretty young.
Okay. What is some of the feedback you've gotten from people that really made you happy or maybe made you scratch your head? Like any, maybe start out with particularly good feedback and then maybe some feedback that doesn't maybe make sense yet, but you think is interesting.
I think the thing that I've loved hearing the most is people, I think I mentioned this earlier, but people really saying, I didn't know what regularity was until I really started like taking this product and taking it habitually. I think we don't think about our bowel movements enough and we really should be thinking about them more. But I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I haven't gone to the bathroom in a couple of days, as if that's normal. And it's not normal. Yeah. And it's not normal. I mean, I've had a lot of candid conversations with many friends who are like, oh, I definitely don't go to the bathroom every day. I'm like, what do you mean you don't go to the bathroom every day? I mean, that's not good. I think for me, it's been most exciting for those people who are now aware of what regularity feels like and is supposed to be like. That to me is the icing on the cake, right? And then, I've heard the Symbiotic, which is the capsule, it's a pre-pro and postbiotic combination. That product was like very near and dear to my heart because I spent a lot of time really looking into and diving into a lot of research behind various probiotic strains because I wanted to support people who were suffering from leaky gut syndrome, which was something that was very much a part of my journey in healing my gut. And I wanted to find probiotic strains that helped strengthen the gut lining, the gut wall, and also strains that stimulated the production of Akkermansia, which is also very critical for the gut lining, gut wall. And, that product was very much my baby, but I've since had a lot of friends that have come to me after taking that and said, I never used to be able to eat cruciferous vegetables because I would always be bloated and gassy after eating them. But I literally have taken the Symbiotic every single day and I take it probably about midday and they're like, I've been able to eat cruciferous vegetables without issue. And so it's interesting things like that you're like, okay, I mean, this stuff really matters, feeding the good bacteria in your gut, introducing the right probiotic strains, those things really do matter and they have such an impact on the function of your gut. And so that's some of the feedback that's been most exciting for me, truly.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's great. Well, excellent. Yes, the best place to get it is to go to either Amazon or go to the website bio.me to order the product. And I guess that's it. Yeah. What future products, now that this is working and helping people, what's next?
Yeah. I mean, well, we're really excited. On the 3rd of June, we're actually coming out with our travel packets that are going to allow people to take their fiber powders with them very easily when they travel. As we know, travel can be very rough on the gut. And so hopefully, having these a more travel-friendly format will allow people to be able to mitigate that while they're out and about and doing things they love. And then we have another product that's launching next month in June on the first day of summer, which is very exciting. We're keeping it a little close to the vest, but it's going to be another tool that people can add into their toolkits to really help them, create a healthy environment to sustain a very diverse and healthy microbiome.
Okay. Well, excellent. Well, thanks, Shannon, so much for coming on the podcast. It's been good to talk to you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's fun to talk about these things.
Thank you for listening to the Good Question Podcast. Please email support@thegoodquestionpodcast.com if you have any referrals to great guests for us to interview. Visit thegoodquestionpodcast.com to hear more interviews. And please help us spread the word by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to this podcast.